Have you been out to Kay's Kitchen? If not, you are missing out. Come on. Between the fried pork chops and the fried pickles, you cannot go wrong for lunchtime. Now, those are my favorites. My kids really love the pancakes. They love the omelets. Oh, my daughter always gets an omelet or a cheeseburger, and they make the thickest cheeseburgers that just kind of melt in your mouth. Make sure you go out there today, 501 North Jefferson Street, and let them know that WPKY and Tess says hi and that we sent you out there. Fifteen eighty 103.3 WPKY, and I have Mr. Daniel Rubino in the studio with me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Tess.
I tell you, I was just talking to him about it, and I didn't want to say it wrong because when it comes to this field, I know very little, but I'm so interested in it and fascinated, as most people probably are. Tell us what you do and who you're with.
Well, thank you for inviting me to talk this morning. My name's Dan Rubino, and I'm president of EAA Chapter 1619 over in Marion, Kentucky.
Okay, now what do they do?
Well, the EAA is the Experimental Aircraft Association, and maybe when people hear that, they think of fellas who take a lawn chair and put a weed whacker engine on.
You know what we think of. That's exactly what we
try and jump off the barn roof, but
that's why I wanted you to say that, because I didn't want to say it wrong. I would end up saying it wrong.
But actually, there are many divisions within the EAA. There's the Antique Classic Division, people who restore the old biplanes from the 30s
neat.
and the 40s. And there's the Warbird section, where people who restore the old World War II and World War I airplanes. There's hot air balloons. There is there is the ultralight section and many other sections of aviation, all the different interests of pilots and people who aren't pilots either.
I bet most of us don't think about balloons being aviation, but that really, we always think of jets and airplanes. You don't think about hot air balloons being part of, aviation.
Right. And you may have heard of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, that
maybe.
Third week in July, where they have the convention. It becomes the busiest airport in the world with thousands of airplanes.
Oh, wow.
Usually about 80,000 people attend. The EAA has 200,000 members in it, and there's 893 active chapters.
Oh, my goodness.
So our chapter, we kind of specialize, even though we do have home builders and we do have Warbirds out at Marion and we do have classic airplanes, but we kind of specialize in the Young Eagle program, which is a program for giving students age 8 to 17 a free airplane ride to get them interested in aviation, or if they're already interested, to come out and actually sit in the front seat and go for a ride.
I was way in my 20s before I ever got into an airplane, so that is, but that's kind of how they, that's how they get an interest, and that's how it sparks, and that's how it starts. And wow, what a career a kid could have just from an interest of coming to one of your functions.
Well, this started way back in 1992. The EAA got together and they said, well, the Wright brothers made their first flight in 1903. So for the 100th anniversary, let's have given 1 million rides to children. And we actually got our 1 million rides in way before that anniversary, kept going. We're way past 2 million rides, going to 3 million rides
Really?
right now.
Oh, my
There's
goodness.
a lot of interest, and children have in aviation.
Well, a lot of them, especially when we're kids, we look up and we see the birds and we'll see the airplanes and we'll see all the airplanes on TV and we think, it just seems so out of reach and so out there that, you can't possibly touch it. But it is. It's right there and it's right down the road from us, right?
Not only can you touch it, it's totally free. There is no charge.
That's the best four-letter word ever, anywhere. Free.
The students come out, and after the flight, they get a certificate and they get a logbook.
Oh, wow.
Now, if they're really interested, they can come back again and get another flight recorded in their logbook. Each time they can go in a different airplane. Now, let me tell you the dates. Mark this down on the calendar.
These are too neat.
June 15th from 9 till noon will be our next one coming up.
Okay.
And then July 13th is another one. Now, safety is number one. If the weather is not good, if it's too gusty or if it's raining or threatening, lightning, forget it.
That would be bad.
We're staying on the ground, all right? Safety is number one. So those are our 2 dates. Now, and I know that the children are very busy in the summer with various programs. So if they can't make it, they can get in touch with me, and we can try and arrange for a separate flight other than those 2 days. But those are really the fun days.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you're about the most accommodating man I've ever met in my entire life. I really do. I think so. Remind us of the age groups again.
It's 8 through 17 years old.
Okay.
Now, that's the young Eagles flights. We also have Eagles flights. That's for the adults.
Really?
And we just had one of those in Saturday, May 18th was our last date. We flew 25 adults, and I think 3 of them are really ready to start taking lessons from that.
What? I'm telling you, you people are amazing. Because that's the thing, too. And, a lot of people say, well, I don't have time for it right now. Maybe, when I retire, maybe I'll have time then. What a great hobby and things like that to go into later on. Or I would like to do it now. I'm not, if...
Well, I'd like
that would be great.
I'd like to give a big thank you to the Marion-Crittenden County Airport Board for allowing us to do this at the airport.
I think that's amazing. Now, is that free for adults too?
Oh, yeah. Free.
4-letter word. My favorite. Free. So give them that phone number that they can contact you at.
630-251-4563.
Now, is this easy to find? You have to understand, I get lost in a wet paper bag. So
okay, yeah. So if you're leaving Princeton here and you're going up Marion Road to get to Marion, the first stoplight you come to is Gum Street. You make a left and you go about a mile, and you look for Airport Road.
Well, even I could find that, and that's saying something.
There's one of those green airport signs where you make your turn to
with
the
an
right.
arrow and says test, dummy, go this way. I think that's awesome, and I think that the whole program is just really neat. I mean, from kids of all ages. You can be a kid again when you're an adult and start something and get passionate about it. And we're always looking for something and fussing about stuff. When we're mamas and daddies, we are fussing because we've got 2 or 3 kids and everything is so expensive. And, it costs a lot to take a kid anywhere these days. So if you can actually not only... I mean, come on, that's a really neat experience for any kid to have, and then it's free at the same time. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Plus, it's right down the road, so we don't have to go very far. I'm enjoying that.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on this morning. I
appreciate it. Thanks so much. You have a great day. And let's see, we've got, don't go anywhere, Tommy Bogle is sitting out there in the waiting room. He's not paying any attention to me whatsoever, but he is out there in the waiting room for the Caldwell County Extension Office. He's going to be in with us next on Coffee Talk. So hang out just a second. We'll be back on WPKY. 1580 103.3 WPKY. And, anytime I can slide one of my neighbors in, that's what I intend to do. Farmersville is just going to be on Coffee Talk all the time. No, Tommy Bogle is here, and you're with the Extension Office.
Shane.
Oh, it's one of them Bogles.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us.
There's a couple of you.
There's 4 now.
There's
4 generations of us right here in
pick
Caldwell
one.
County.
He works out at the Extension Office, and he's my neighbor. He lives down the road. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I did. I got the wrong Bogle. My goodness, that comes from knowing the families
Well, we
a
know
little
everybody,
bit. We've
yeah.
known everybody just a minute. I mean, it's been a little while, but we actually, when we were talking about what to kind of what subject to go over and that sort of thing this week, I'm really glad that he's coming in, because it was one of those things where I kind of wanted to give him a call anyway on this, because it's something that I've had personally. I've lost some livestock over and that sort of thing. And I know other people have. I can't be the only person in the world that's ever had a problem with it. And I know this is something that recurs every year, is those weeds in your field and your pasture.
Yes.
And some of them are poisonous.
We have a whole list of them that are poisonous.
That's what we need to hear.
What is our saving grace, Tess, is we are in the forage belt of the United States. We have plenty of rainfall for the most part. We have warm temperatures, and grass and forages are desirable forages. Love this part of the world.
Blessing and a curse.
So, we raise a lot of forages.
Right.
That part is a blessing, and if we manage it correctly, what God has given us that's good,
Right.
we manage it correctly, we usually do not have problems. But in weird years, like last year, we had some dry. The year before last, we was really dry in the summertime, and those desirable forages tend to go by the wayside a lot quicker in drier, hot weather than our weeds. And all of these poisonous weeds that we're going to mention a few, but there's no way we can talk about all of them this morning.
And I'll tell you, even the abundance of trying to figure out which one is which and doing the research. And,
that's right, and research is the key.
I have stood in the middle of my field and called Mr. Bogle and said, "Help me! What is this?" He's gotten that frantic phone call from me.
Well, and I get those frantic phone calls, a couple of times a year, and in a drier year, when our desirable forages are or less, some of those weeds can grow on top of a rock,
right,
and doesn't require the amount of fertility, and they're robbing the fertility from our good stuff at the same time. But yes, we do have some plants in Kentucky that are poisonous to livestock, and I had somebody ask one time, said, I've seen this, I've heard of this, but I've never known anybody that it's happened to.
Right.
Most of the time, our livestock do not mess with it. There is just a little bit of a common sense gene that they have that, hey, I probably shouldn't eat this.
Right.
But in some years when forages are depleted, we're over pastured, we've got too many animals on a certain pasture, our desirables are gone, they're hungry. Say, I'm going to try this, and that's when our problems.
Well, and last year, that was one of those times where, the temperatures and Mother Nature just was not playing nice with us in the pastures, and I'm sure most of the farmers were in the same boat as we were. The pastures just were not sustaining what they normally would have.
And I think our recommendation last year was to get those off of that pasture, feed them inside, get them some hay, get them some stored forage until that passed, and eradicate those. Number one, how to prevent plant poisoning with our livestock. And we're talking about horses and cows today. We're going to spend a little bit more time on horses, but learn to recognize those poisonous plants. We have a ton. I'm going to leave you with some today of research, of identification, images, description of plants, and the only thing that we can do is spend time in our pastures learning what they are.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, you can even walk through. There's one of them he's going to tell you about here in just a minute, that the best clue in the world is not by sight. It's your nose. When you walk right past it, or even walk in the vicinity, it smells a whole lot better than what it does to your livestock.
Our poisonous weeds do occur out in the pasture in the middle occasionally, but for the most part, it's staying around the fence borders, pond banks, creek banks, along wooded, you got overhang, they've got some shade, they've got some protection there. Cuckleburs are some, and some others that are poisonous only when they're seedlings.
Cuckleburs are poisonous?
In the seedling stage, they are poisonous.
I did not know that. And, I'm going to be terrified every time my little donkeys are going to go out in the field. I'm going to be terrified every time.
And occasionally we'll get some that is baled up in hay bales.
Right. I mean, I wonder about that.
But it's all of a dilution factor. So
Okay.
there has to be, with certain weeds, there's going to be a certain amount of toxicity in a certain weed, and it's all by body weight of the animal. If they're getting a little bit of it, if they get a mouthful of what we're seeing in the pastures right now is the yellow buttercup stuff that stands, about a foot tall. The pastures are yellow. That's actually got some toxic qualities to our livestock, especially cows, and it does not taste good to them. It upsets the rumen and the processes that's in that complex stomach of a bovine or of a cow, that they don't like it, so they're not going to eat it. But if it's the only thing there,
well, they're just like people. I mean, if you start running shy in the pantry, there's a lot of things that you don't necessarily go for. It's not necessarily the chocolate donut that you go for, but that can of tuna's starting to look pretty good right about now, and there's nothing else to eat.
And we talked about this on the phone yesterday. I was driving down the road and seen some poison hemlock on the side of the road.
I've seen a lot more of that the last few years. My dad and I were talking about that, especially on the road banks closer to the driveways and right there beside the field, just right across from your road. There's a couple of pieces right there.
There is. Times are a little harder for our municipalities and things, and the right-of-ways are not taken care of like they used to.
Right.
When we were young, they mowed all the way back, mowed it 3 times plus a year.
My dad still does.
They sprayed.
Papaw plug. Good morning.
It's not. We're not taking care of those, and on the right-of-ways are right next to most of our pastures, so it's easy for those to get transferred. As they do come by, they're up this high, head high before they start bush hogging and mowing, so all that seed gets thrown into our fields and washed down the ditch to the next place. So, number one, education, learning what those weeds are, and especially associated with your livestock that you have on the farm. Some horses, we do not want wild cherry trees.
That's one that I didn't realize until, and I guess it's kind of like the black walnut thing. You realize it, or you've heard it, but you just don't think about it. And the cherry was one that I recently have started wondering about and hearing more about.
And last year we got a call. We had a herd, pretty much a whole herd of cows that were sick from some neighbors had thrown they had cut taxus bushes around their house. And thought, you know what, let's just throw them over the neighbor's fence here. We'll put them in. Well, the cows come along. It's hot summertime. Hey, I got something new here.
Hey, look at there.
They start chewing on that, and we've got a lot.
That looked better than that can of tuna that I had.
We got a lot of sick cows there.
Well, and lawn clippings. A lot of people don't think about, when you've got things that you're taking out of the garden, maybe stuff that you're getting out of the garden like tomatoes and things that they're not supposed to have either.
Also corn.
Right.
A lot of folks will harvest their sweet corn and have large amounts, and at certain times of the year, nitrates can be at a high level in that corn and can be a problem. So just some education there, and the good thing about having your extension office in every county in the state of Kentucky is IDing those things. Going tomorrow on a pasture walk in a cow pasture with a young cattle producer here in the county, to ID a few of those things and a few other problem areas that he has. But, if you're not in it every day and have not been around it all your life, you may miss some things.
Hey, even if you have, you may be missing some things. And I will guarantee you, he didn't answer the phone when I called because I was on the radio, because I wasn't then. And he didn't, because, I was his neighbor. He answered it because that's what he does. And I can actually tell you that when you call him and ask for help, he will help you when you call.
Well, we've kind of touched on several weeds and several plants.
One of the ones I did want to say, though, purple perilla, purple mint.
Yes, and that, you had an extreme case last year.
Right. I lost 2 donkeys to that thing.
We had extenuating circumstances last year. That is something you hear about 1 or 2 cases across the entire country in a year.
Right.
It's just all of the stars aligned for that to happen that day. And we did have one more farmer that had some problems with that in the county, and it's just I don't know if it was because of the weather. It tasted a little better at that point in time, whatever it was. If they didn't have availability to other forages.
Well, and that stuff, we had seen it before. I mean, it's been on the farm, but nothing ever ate it. We didn't think about it being poisonous,
and that's the thing.
Anything like that.
Most of these things are present on 9 out of 10 farms. They're present in a quantity, but the livestock doesn't
They just leave it alone.
They leave it alone.
You don't really think about it.
So if we're taking care of business, we're not overstocking our pastures. That's my number one thing when I go out and look. We've got too many animals on too small of acreage.
Right.
If they do not have if the muzzles don't disappear when they go down in the grass, cows, horses, either one, we're overstocked.
That's really good. Say that again.
So we want the muzzle of the animal to disappear when it goes down into the grass to eat.
That's great. That's a really good way to gauge it.
So if the grass is tall, if it's 4 to 6 inches and not burnt off to the ground, you still got root development going on. And when we get the hot, dry weather that's coming, that we're starting to see right now, we're needing some rain now, that the roots are not there to be able to support it. It's overgrazed, it dies, and then that weed is going to come back in its place.
Now, when we bush hog it, do we want to go as low as we possibly can, or do we want to give it a little
We want to knock
room?
the tops off. Our goal for clipping anything is to keep it in a vegetative stage.
Okay.
So raise above that. We don't want to cut the grass. We want to cut the seed heads and cut the reproductive parts of the plant. So yes, that 12-inch. We're coming to bush hogging, so it just lays it over. Yeah, you're laying some of it over, but the idea is to stimulate the vegetative growth.
Well, and you kind of have to watch it, because if you're anything like mine, my bush hog will stay up there for a minute, but she's been around for a minute or two, and she slowly, it just starts going down as you go down the field. But if you keep an eye on it, you can do that. And that's a question that I really and truly I wanted to ask you this morning, because I wasn't real sure.
Get to know your pastures, get to know your animals, and if you need, we have lots of resources available at the Extension Office. And I say that I do a lot of forage work. My master's work is in forages, and I kind of take it serious that when I do come to a place, I may fuss at you. If you've got too many head of horses on a paddock, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to fix your situation until you fix this situation.
Well, and to be honest, some people could be scared of calling you because they don't want to be fussed at. Well, no, that's true, and you know it.
We're there to solve problems. We're there to help, and we can help. We have research-based information to back up what we're saying.
I can testify that he will help you, and he's very good about it. And, I was one. I had several, and I needed to rotate more often is what I needed to do. And I wanted... Well, it doesn't matter what I was doing. I needed to be fussed at a little bit that day, too.
We'll finish up with this, Tess.
Yes. We're going to take a break real quick, actually. When we come back, he's not going anywhere. Mr. Bogle, I'm going to make sure that I keep him here. We're going to change gears, and then we'll be back with you in just a second on Coffee Talk on PKY. 1580 103.3 WPKY. And the best thing in the whole wide world about being local and being from here is when people come in and you see them and you say, well, they ask if you can tell them something. No, but you can.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's
Mr. Sims is here.
Good morning. Wanted to break in real quick just because we're getting a lot of calls about WCA trash service and if it's delayed based on the holiday.
Right. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
It's so I wanted to pass this along because I don't think a lot of people know that we offer this, but WCA offers a one-call system so that you can call our office at 270-365-6200 and talk to Jody or Delisa, and they can add you to that system. And when we have vital updates to customer service, we can put out a one call to tell you that the schedule's on schedule or there's an interruption, so on and so forth.
Oh, okay.
So anybody out in the community that's a customer or any of the adjoining communities that's listening, if you want to call 270-365-6200, they can add you to that list.
That sounds great. So we're good to go. We're
good to go. Everything's on schedule this week. So if your regular trash day is Thursday, please have your trash out and available for pickup the rest of the week.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you for stopping in.
Yes, ma'am. My pleasure.
You stop in whenever you want to. That's good I tell you, that's what I loved about coming back to work here, is that you know the people when they go up and down the road. And I saw someone walking their dog past the studio this morning that I knew, and I loved that. I like looking out the window and seeing people I know. It's kind of like when you go to your favorite restaurant, because you know when you go in there, you know everybody that's in there, so you can just sit at one big table. I think that's awesome. But we're going to change gears, and of course, Mr. Bogle's here with the Extension Office. And what else you guys got going out there?
Well, we're talking about pastures and some problems in pastures. We have a great event coming up close to the fall.
Okay.
And it's early, but I wanted to kind of get folks used to it, especially our horse folks in the community.
I'm so excited. Turn the radios up. You're going to want to hear about this.
So a project was done with USDA, a grant that the university received to help our equine industry with cost share. We have our cost share through our conservation districts for certain practices on farms, especially beef farms, grain farms, ditches, water crossings, pasture renovation, things like that, has not been available to our equine industry because the regs, our fences is different for horses. Our creek crossings have to be different for horses. Our waters are different, automatic waters. So this grant was received to help rewrite some of those regs, state regs, for USDA programs that will include equine.
That is so
So
huge.
basically that's the EQIP program, if you've heard of that, through FSA and our USDA folks. And this farm, the Webbers on Hopkinsville Road, if you go out to the first entrance to Dripping Springs Road, they were selected 2 years ago, and we started implementing some practices for equine, paid for by the cost share, as a demo farm for FSA reps to bring folks to see. And we're going to have the Kentucky Western Region Equine Field Day will be there on September the 5th.
Oh, that is such a huge thing.
So
and I'll tell you, that is a lot of hard work realized. And
well,
come
it
together.
is, and they have been so great to work with. They have such a great operation that they care for those animals, retired horses from thoroughbreds. It's they're from all over the world there, but they take such good care of their place and want to do things right. The horses to have that muzzle go down in the grass like we was talking about a while ago. So we have implemented several practices there on that place, from automatic waterers to a pond trough system, some fencing, some pasture renovation, some creek crossings where they had some erosion going on. So we're going to show all that off on September the 5th.
Okay.
And we've got folks from all over the country coming to speak.
Oh, I bet.
So we're expecting folks from about 4 states to come into that farm. And it will be the evening of the 5th of September, and you're going to be hearing lots more about it. We'll do a full show later on, closer to time. But just to get that, a lot of time spent on pastures.
Well, and people will say, well, what is the big deal? I mean, they're talking about, something to pour some water in for them to drink. No. The part that makes this so huge is that I think what some people, if you haven't raised horses, and you're used to something different. What they may not understand is a lot of these things that you have to implement, you're really making some changes, and those changes can be very expensive.
Very expensive,
and
yes.
if you haven't done them before, you don't know what you're doing, or it's new equipment, or you haven't seen somebody, maybe not have a friend that's been doing it at all that can lead you or guide you. Seeing that in action and having somebody, give you some tips and say, oh, if I was you, I would dig the hole a couple of, there's tips and tricks that go along with everything.
That's
and
right.
This works and this doesn't. And that's a lot of hard work and a lot of time and effort and money that you can actually save along the way. And I think this is huge. I am so excited about it.
This is a picture-perfect world.
Right.
If you go up around Lexington and we see how the horses are treated there, that's not the way it is all the way across the state. It's just financially it's not. But if we do little things at a time,
right,
like taking care of our poisonous weeds in our pastures and getting good grass under those animals, little things like that we can implement slowly along the way, that's what it's all about. And that's what this field day.
Well, and that doesn't happen overnight. You can't just walk out there with a spray bottle and say, poof, it's gone. I mean, that doesn't happen.
And we didn't talk much about weed control, about spraying those, but most of those weeds that we have discussed here are fairly easy to control.
Well, and you said early on, too. I was thinking,
Yes.
we need to be spraying by early May for that stuff, and you said it was a lot earlier.
Our thistles, these yellow buttercups that's out there, that's all the yellow.
Devil.
We need to be spraying for that in the end of February, first part of March. They're there then.
See, that's earlier than what I thought. I really didn't think about that.
Well, actually, they're present in the fall. We can actually spray them in the fall, and they sit there dormant.
Really?
They're not in a reproductive stage.
Huh.
So we don't see a thistle. A thistle can be a square foot. Everywhere there is a thistle in your field, there is a square foot that nothing else will grow.
Oh, they're easy to find.
And in the fall, it's flat on the ground. You'll see it in late fall. It will stay just like that all winter long.
I never
till
noticed
spring,
that.
But we can kill that very easily with a 2,4-D based product in that early time as it's just starting to perk back up. The spring is kind of waking up.
Right.
Get it before the reproductive stage, because once it's in a reproductive stage, you're out there like a hoe and a shovel like we did when we was kids digging them up.
I'm telling you, it's me, Papa, a shovel and a hoe. And that, walking around the fields. And by the way, we've got some of that to do this week. I know he's probably saying that to me right now.
Well, our poison hemlock right now is in its peak.
Well, and the hemlock, with that, I mean, is it as bad as what all the what you think, like TV? I mean, that's how bad is it?
It can be very bad. But the good part about right now is we still got a lot of good grass out there.
Right.
We're not getting that second set of weeds that come in the summer. We got our spring weeds, we got summer weeds.
Right.
That hemlock is definitely one that's in the spring, and one of the mimickers of our hemlock that's misidentified every year. I hear it every year. Queen Anne's lace.
I know where we're going.
Queen Anne's lace. It does not flower till later in the year. So if you see something flowering right now that looks like that,
it's hemlock.
It's probably the hemlock.
See, that's a great way to look at it. I'd see there's all kind. You just need to come back and talk to me all the time. And there's things I've learned this morning that I didn't know, and I thought I was I'm not going to say smart cookie, but I was better than the average possum anyway. I knew a little bit about it. But so we need our 2,4-D. We need to not be scraping the bottom of the ground on the bush hog. And outside of that,
and keeping it not being overstocked, because your animals will do that, keep the bird off to the ground.
Rotation.
And about 1.5 acres per animal average.
And, while you're here, water, make sure that you give those livestock water and they have access to water. It's getting, way up there on the thermometer. So that becomes more and more important as well. Thank you for being here.
We'll be here. One of us from Extension's here every Wednesday.
See, there you go. Every Wednesday we're going to learn something, and of course I'm going to drag him in, kicking and screaming every time I can, because I think that's stuff. We learn everything every time we can sit down and we talk to each other as community members and neighbors and farmers, and that's one thing that farmers generally do very, very well is they talk to one another. And a lot of times they'll talk to one another before they'll talk to anyone at the extension office or anything else.
That's very true.
Well, we don't want to admit when we mess up. I mean, we don't want to call you and say, hey, guess what I didn't know, but I figured it out the hard way.
That's why I spend my mornings at the coffee shop.
See, we talked about that a while ago. You know, when you walk in and what is it? Everybody knows your name, but it's with the cup of coffee. But that's how you figure things out. Don't be afraid to talk to one another. You know, don't be afraid that you don't know everything and you don't need to. You know, that's what he's for. He's the guy that's supposed to tell you and lead you in the right direction. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Couple of things before I let you go off Coffee Talk this morning, that we're actually collecting fans for the elderly. PAX and WPKY are teaming up right now, and we're collecting fans. And the elderly in our community, that's something that is rough. I mean, it's hard on any of us. The heat is every single year. And, of course, it's not going to get any cooler whatsoever. I mean, it's just going to keep on getting hotter and hotter and hotter throughout the summer. And but that's something that, you know, the elderly really struggle with. And to be honest, how high does your electric bill go during the, you know, it's not cheap to cool your house anymore. So that's the other part that they struggle with, because they are on fixed incomes. So PAX and WPKY are joining together, and we're going to try to help our neighbors and make sure that the elderly in our area have fans to help cool themselves off this summer. Because, you know, hey, I cannot imagine sitting there with no access to fan or air conditioner or anything. That would be horrible and miserable. So make sure that you drop by. I would love nothing more than to look through this window right here at our waiting room that Mr. Bogle was just in, and see it just full to the brim of fans. I would love nothing more than to tell Todd Griffin, hey, come help me. We got to get all these fans out of here. I can't walk. I want that whole thing filled up with nothing but fans. So, I mean, that would be fantastic. Fantastic. How about that? Do you see that working this morning on your Wednesday? Of course, your weather, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms today, mainly after 1 p.m., partly sunny otherwise with a high near 87. And, you know, King's Kitchen is something else that's near and dear to our hearts here at WPKY, and it's something that that we, you know, really and truly, we try to donate our time and effort as much as we can. And Farmers Bank is actually asking for your help. Now, I know it seems like sometimes when you go into the grocery store or the store and you're trying to grab your stuff and run out, I know that taking another 5 minutes sometimes to, you know, go to another aisle to grab something or stop by the radio station, you know, sometimes we're not on your way. But I bet you that you can get to a Farmers Bank location either on Highway 62 or on South Jefferson. I bet you're on one end of town anyway, so that it won't be out of the way. They're asking for your help. They've got a goal of collecting 200 cases of water this week. And that's not so shoot the moon, Alice, that we can't do that. That's doable, right? If you look around and the people that you're sitting around at work with, the people that you're going to church with, you'll see everybody at church tonight. Come on. Fans and bottled water. Make sure you mention that when you're at church tonight sitting around, all right? Farmers Bank in Princeton needs your help with 200 cases of water this week for King's Kitchen. It's not them sitting around drinking it. It's King's Kitchen that needs it. You can drop off your donation of bottled water to either one of their locations, one on 62 West and one on South Jefferson. So here you go. I need you to write the list down, or at least mentally, when you go to church tonight. We need to get the fans filled up here for the elderly in our neighborhood, and then we also need the cases of water for King's Kitchen, because it's neighbors helping neighbors, and in Caldwell County, that's how we do it, huh? Thank you so much for joining us on Coffee Talk. I want to thank Mr. Daniel Rubino, or Rubino. I struggle with that name. I am so sorry. Rubino, he is the sweetest man. And I'll tell you, I just to remind you, if you didn't hear him earlier in Coffee Talk, they have you can get all the details online. It's free for children, and they're trying to get them interested in aviation and interested in flight. And that's something that's going on at the Crittenden County Airport. And it's very worthwhile, and of course it's free for kids, and that's kids of all ages. They actually have programs for the adults as well. And your child can actually go ahead and get that free flight. And while he was here, he was saying that, you know, they understand that kids have got a lot to do over the summer. And chances are you might not be able to go to one of the two events that they have coming up in June. However, he said if you will call him, and of course they've got their number right there online. And if let's see here, 251-4563 is that number. If you need it, you can give me a call. But if you call him, he will actually make a way for you to come at another time when maybe it is more available to you. And again, mamas and daddies, that is free for these kids. And so that's very worthwhile. You talk about education and fun mixed together at its finest. I mean, that it doesn't get hardly any better than that, being able to get a free airplane ride. When you're a kid especially, I told him, I said, man, I didn't do that till I was way up in my adult years. So that, being able to do that at that young age could really spark the creativity in that kid's mind. So we really appreciate them being here. He's a sweetheart, and they will take care of it. And then, of course, Mr. Shane Bogle was here with us this morning. And, hey, he was informative, and that is a guy, now that he's not here anymore, I can talk about him a little more, right? Just don't tell him I said so. But he's a really nice guy, and that's one thing that, sometimes you go, I don't want him to yell at me because I didn't have I had too many cows in that pasture. I should have changed it out. But, hey, you can say that the cows will never eat purple mint. You never know, because my donkey's dead. So, I mean, check all that stuff out. If you have any questions whatsoever, give them a call, because he will absolutely go out of his way to help you. All of them out there at the Extension Office will. And, of course, every Wednesday we have someone from the Extension Office come in and help us out. Of course, Miss Joni has always got tons going on, and 4-H with Miss Jewel and Ashley White will be out here next week. So make sure that you tune in every Wednesday and figure out what the Extension Office has got going on. I don't know how they keep up with all of it, because they have so much going on all the time, and it's always coming back to right here in our community. And our time now is 8:56, and let's see, tomorrow you'll have Mr. Todd Griffin in with the Sideline Report, so make sure that you don't miss that. And then we'll be back on Friday with Coffee Talk again, so make sure that you join us for that, because the Pet of the Week will be here. So once again, your weather, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms today, mainly after 1 p.m., partly sunny otherwise, high near 87 on 1580, 103.3 WPKY. Have a great Wednesday.